Hi, welcome back and thanks for joining me today. This is Jonna with Purple Girl Crafts. Today we're going to make another rotating card. This one, again, the mechanism is on the inside. And this one, as we spin it counterclockwise, you will see the butterfly will appear and then go back down into the card. So it's just like the other one I did on the Just Duckies a few weeks ago. This card measures 4.5 by 7. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we'll need is our scoreboard. And our first piece for the base of the card, this is going to be cut at 8.5 by 6.5. You're going to turn this back on the 8.5 inch side, and we're going to score this at 4 inches and 8 inches. So you should just have those two score marks. Next, we will need the top piece for the top of the card, and this is going to be cut at 3 3/4 by 6 1/4. I really like this paper because it just, the light just hits it and it just has a rainbow effect. Then we will need one piece, and this is 3/4 inches. It only needs to be about 7 inches total, so I'm just using a scrap from the paper that I used for the base of the card. Then we need a circle, and this is for the mechanism on the inside, and this is a 3 3/4 inch diameter circle, and this is the die cut that I used for it, and just ran it through my die cut machine. I also cut one out of just a thin piece of printer paper, and then I folded that in half and then half again just to get that center point so that this is balanced when it turns. And we'll do that in a few minutes. Then I cut out some scallops, and I just did a sentiment and then a white piece behind it just to make that pop up a little bit. And I just used my nesting dies, scallop dies. And those will all be listed in the comment section. Then I also have my butterfly. This is one that I drew and colored. And then I've got another one, but we're not going to end up using that one. And then I have just a couple that are punches, and these are from an old Martha Stewart die that are a couple years old. Also, for the arrow, I'm using Lawn Fawn set that I showed. Okay, so that's all we need our scoreboard for. So for the first piece, we're going to fold that on that 4 inch line, crease out that fold, and then take the other piece and just fold that in and crease it out. And that's for the base of the card. And you could do this either way. You can have the fold on either side. It doesn't matter. You also will need one piece for the back, which is the same size, so the 6 3/4 by 3 3/4. You'll need one extra piece to go on the back of the card, and I did not show you that. So now for the circle. We're going to take that piece of just the printed paper that we're going to put a hole right in the center of it, just so that I can make sure that I am in the center of my circle for the mechanism. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm going to take a pencil, and I'm just going to color through that little hole that I made. And then I'm just going to punch this through. I'm just going to use my poker. Just kind of push it, and then hold it tight, and then just push it through. It's going to hold a brad, so there's really not much more to that. Then for the card, we want to make sure that this is centered on the card, and we want to be about a 1/2 inch off the edge of the bottom of the card. So I'm going to turn this just to make it a little bit easier to see. So I'm just trying to line this up just by looking at it. I'm going to turn it again, and we're going to be about 1.5 inches from the edge of the card for that center point of the circle. So I'm going to just move the circle. I'm just going to make a small mark. So that's how high we're going to go, and then to make it even, we know that 2 inches is the center point, so I'm just going to mark it just up on that line and then the 2 inches. So that is where we want our next hole. So the easy thing is just to put your poker in, line up that hole, and then just hold that in place. Don't poke through, just to make sure you are not over 7 inches, so that it'll fit in your envelope. And then once that's done, go ahead and poke through that hole. and that's on the base of the card. Next, we're going to take that long piece that we did, and again, I'm just going to put my poker through. I'm going to poke through the bottom piece, and I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm not going to secure this yet. I'm just going to do it so I can line up this piece. So I want to make sure that my piece does not hang over the edge of the card. So as you can see here, I've got it lined up with the edge of the card. I'm just going to lay that over, and I want to go in just about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, not too far in. So I'm just going to put just a small mark on just that little, this piece right here. And then I'm going to line this up, make sure it's in the center. And that's where we're going to poke a hole. So again, I'm going to take my poker, just poke through that hole that I just made. Just enough so I can pick it up, hold the paper kind of tight, and then just poke through. Now once again, I'm going to do the same thing that we just did. Just poke your thing through it so that you know it's lined up. I'm going to take a piece of tape just to hold it on just for a second. Then I'm going to take the arm. We're going to line it up so it's in the center. I'm going to move this, turn it the other way so I can see better. So I want to make sure this is lined up in the center of the circle. And then once I know that I have it lined up and it doesn't go over the edge of the card so that you can't see it when it turns, I'm going to put that little mark just on that circle. And then also while you're here, you want to take at the top, put a mark where the top of that arm goes to the top of the card. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So now I'm going to take and poke a hole through that piece that we just put a pencil on, and that's going to be for the bottom brad. For the arm, we're going to cut off that top piece that we don't need because you don't want it to extend out of the card. We're going to do our arrows. So we're going to do these on the circle. I'm just going to line them up, and I'm just going to do 4 of them. We're going to put one at the very bottom where the 2 circles line up. I'm going to turn it all the way because I want to make sure these get just about as even as possible. And then turn it again. And if you don't have a stamp, you can draw an arrow on there. You could use a sticker if you wanted. If you have a die cut that's an arrow, you could glue those on. You just want to make sure they're not too big so they don't get in the way of the arm. Okay, so I just grabbed just a couple brads. And we're going to start with the arm first. And the arm is going to get secured to that further out circle, the hole that we made. But before we do that, we're going to punch out just the corners, just so that it's a little bit more round and it flows better. So just on the 2 ends that are going to be fastened. So now I'm going to take a brad, I'm going to put my brad through just the first one. And then we're going to put it through that bottom hole, not the center one. And I flip this over. I'm just going to use my poker just to spread out the brad. Just like that. As you can see, as it spins, now we're going to put one on the center piece. And then we're going to secure that to the card. So I'm going to put that through the base of the card and then flip it over, and again use my poker just to spread out the brad. Okay, now as I line this up, you can see it's turning. You want to make sure your brads aren't too tight. I just want to make sure that this does go in. I'm just going to hold this and I'm just going to test it. I'm going to turn it to make sure that it does spin. So as you can see, the arm will extend. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take and we're going to put another pencil mark just where that arm is fully extended, so it's at the top, so we know how far the card will go out. So as I turn this back so that the arm is at the bottom, but before we do that, let's put a piece of tape on here just so it doesn't get caught. And I'm just using a piece of regular Scotch tape just to hold it down. Okay, so then as this turns, you can see it won't get stuck on there. So when it is at the bottom and lined up, this is how far the arm is going to extend outside the card. So for the butterfly that I made, I'm just going to line him up so they know that he's not peeking out of the card when the card is at the bottom. And then I just put some tape on here and I'm just moving this around just so I can see where I want. Now you don't want his wings to come all the way off the card because when he goes back in, he might get caught. So you want to leave just a little bit of the wing underneath. And then I'm also going to mark off on the top where his wings end because we don't need that orange piece sticking out. So we're going to take this and we're going to cut off just that little bit of extra. And the reason why I wanted you to make it a little bit longer, because if your butterfly is a little bit bigger or smaller, you might not have to cut as much way. So it depends on what character you use that you want to come out. You don't need the arm to be sticking above the piece that you're adding to it, your embellishment. So I'm just going to lay him back down. So this is where he's going to sit. So I know his wings are going to be just underneath the card, so they'll stay in the card. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this piece of tape again. I'm just going to tape that on there just for a second so I can flip it over. And I'll move this arm just so I have room to work. I'm going to draw a line where the arm is going to be glued to the butterfly. And then I'm going to remove that. We're going to put glue just in that area where I just drew the pencil marks. And now we're going to glue this back down. So let's turn this back around so that we can see. And then just glue your butterfly right onto where you had put those pencil marks. And he should fit perfectly. Now you are going to see a little bit of the orange underneath his wings when he comes out of the card, but it's the same color, so it kind of matches, so you can't really see it's there. And then I'm just going to test this one more time just to make sure that everything looks good. And this will turn either way, so it doesn't matter which way you turn it, but it does. Either way will turn on this one. So once I have him pretty secure, I'm going to turn him back over. And I'm just going to make sure there's no extra glue anywhere, because I don't want it to get stuck inside the card. And then I'm going to remove the pencil marks on the front where I had made pencil marks. And again, I'm just going to rotate him so he's at the bottom of the position. And then we're going to close this card. So once again, we're just going to put glue on that flap and then just seal the card. Just make sure your butterfly is not in the way and that he's going to be underneath the flap. And make sure there's no extra glue so he doesn't get stuck on the flap. I'm just going to use my poker just to hold that flap down and then just close the card on itself and then seal that. And then again, just test it just to make sure that it does work. Okay, then for the front of the card, we have the piece that we cut out. This is just going to go right on the front. So we're going to glue this down. Again, if you wanted to do more layers, you could put another layer and then a matte layer if you wanted. This card stock that I'm using is pretty heavy on this piece right here, so I'm just going to do the one layer. And then just make sure that's secure down. And again, even though the arrow is going one way, it does move both ways on this one. Now for the embellishments, again, I did the scallop circles. I'm going to place those probably right about there. And again, you can embellish this and decorate this any way that you want. I'm going to take the black butterfly, and he will be the shadow on the bottom, and then I'll do one of the peach color on top. That just gives it a 3-dimension look. So these will just sit together. And before I glue anything down, I like to look and see how the card's going to look before I commit to it. So you can change this any way that you wanted. Right now I'm just going to glue just the body, the base, to the card. I'm going to take my bone folder, just push that in, just so that I know that it's secured to itself. I just like the way the shadow on it behind it just really makes that butterfly pop. And then we're going to glue our peach circle to our white circle. And I'm just going to put that probably right about there. So I'm just going to put glue on there. You could use pop dots again. I just don't want to make this card too thick. So we'll put that right about there. And I think I'm going to just extend the butterfly out. So when he is there, I'm going to put the other butterfly on the other side just so it balances out. I am going to use the white on this one, the white glue, just because I don't want too much glue on here. Perfect. Then for the back of the card, I did cut one extra piece, and this is the 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. It's the same size as the first piece that we did. I'm just using a piece of basic white cardstock just to glue that. And that's basically the only reason why we're putting this on there is to hide that brad. And then I'm going to take that extra little peach butterfly. I'm going to put him at the very bottom. So I'm just going to put glue all around this butterfly because I want him to be fully secure. Just going to pop him in the corner. And then the front, I'm going to add some beads. And these beads are on a string, so I'm going to just cut them off and then just place them around the card. And that is it. That is the card that we made today. I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I really enjoy making these videos, and I hope that you love crafting along with me. Until next time, happy crafting, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye-bye.